I lost my train of thought. Hi, hello, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day, a wonderful February so far. I know that for me, January felt like it lasted 10 years, so I'm very excited to be in a new month. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Maddie Bloom, and I'm a multi-genre author. I love to post about what I'm working on, writing, and what I'm reading, books, all that good stuff. And if you are not new here, then thank you so much for coming back. It means the world to me. Today, I wanted to share a January reading recap and then what's on my TBR for the month of February. I read 3 books in January, which wasn't as many as I wanted, but that's okay. There was a lot going on. And then I got sick, and I still have like a lingering cough, and it's so frustrating, but we're trucking through. Anyway, the first book that I read, I started in December, but I finished it in January, so I count it as a January read, and that is City of Snakes by Mariet Kaye. I love Mariet. We met via Instagram last year, I believe, last summer, because I started beta read for her debut novel, Born of Starlight, which is the first novel in her Legends of Henosis series, and City of Snakes is book 2 in the Legends of Henosis series, and I had the pleasure of alpha reading City of Snakes back in June, I believe, of this year, and so I had a lot of fun seeing the changes that were made and just how much stronger of a story it is in its final form. And I love seeing, the progression of stories and how we get from, starting with that initial idea to these like first early drafts that are messy and it's just like all of your brain everywhere, and then to the end when it's like tightened up and you have everything is just where it's supposed to be. And I love seeing that progression. So I really loved being able to read an early draft and then see it in its final form. And it just released in December of 2024, so it's still very new. City of Snakes is a romantasy. As I said, it's book 2. It is technically an interconnected standalone. However, they are very interconnected. So if you are interested in reading City of Snakes, I would highly recommend reading Born of Starlight first, since that has a lot of characters that reappear in City of Snakes, and then the plot of Born of Starlight is pretty integral to the plot of City of Snakes. So I would recommend reading in order. And they're both really good books if you are a romantasy enjoyer. What I love about Mariet's writing style is she creates romantasies that have a great blend of the romance and the fantasy. Her characters are very well developed, and you understand why they make the decisions that they make. They act very believably, and they are very grounded and developed and have well-defined arcs that are compelling to read as well. City of Snakes follows 2 characters, Queen Sibylla Wymark and King Crate Darvanda. They are reluctant allies as the political landscape of Henosis shifted due to the events of Born of Starlight, and so they have to navigate this new political terrain and work together for the benefit of both of their kingdoms and their people. And of course, shenanigans happen and they start to fall in love. City of Snakes was very lighthearted and fun while also being really grounded and having some like very impactful and emotional moments that make it just a joy to read. And then it ends off in the perfect spot for the 3rd book to start and then finish out the trilogy. So I'm very excited to see how everything culminates and ends. And yes, if you are someone who likes romantasy, I highly recommend The Legends of Henosis by Mariet Kaye. The second book that I read was another indie read, and that was Jack's Cassoway and the Shadowrunners in Search of Shadows by Marisa E. Cardin. I love Marisa as well. I had the pleasure of meeting her again via Instagram, but we have been to the same events. She produced one of the book events that I went to back in October, and then since then we have started hosting a writers Discord for Colorado authors, and we do writing sprints on Wednesdays, so that's a lot of fun. This is also the second book in a trilogy, and this one is not an interconnected standalone. It's very connected, so I don't want to give away too many spoilers. So I will give you the premise of the first book with hints of the second book. In Jack's Cassoway in the Shadowrunners, book 1, we meet Jax, who lives on the planet of Andarsha, and he is human, and in this world, humans had left Earth and they found a new star system, and they had inhabited 2 planets, Andarsha and Sirona. On Andarsha, this is 70 years post a war with Sirona that left Sirona pretty much deserted, and the Andarshans have to fly out to Sirona to extract this material that pretty much powers their entire planet. And Jax has always been eager to leave Andarsha. It is a desert planet. He can't see the sky or the stars at night because it's just so full of debris and clouds and dust and everything that kind of blocks that cover, or that blocks the view, I guess. When he finally gets the chance to leave the planet of Andarsha, he jumps at the chance to join the corporation that mines Sirona. But while he's there, he realizes maybe the planet isn't uninhabited. And over the course of those events, that leads us into book 2, where he has learned the truth about his home planet, and he is trying to continue to do the right thing while meeting new people and going to new planets that are in the star system and inhabited as well. I think Marisa is such a master at describing scenery and creating the atmosphere that these characters are in. Her scenes are very rich in color and place and creating that picture that you can see in your mind's eye while you're going through the events of the story. So I really appreciate that attention to detail as we learn more about Jax and what he believes in and what he wants to do with his life and how he interacts with the people around him. The third book I read was a nonfiction book, and that was The Philosophy Book for Beginners by Sharon Kaye. This was just very brief introductory into the concept of philosophy and going through the major philosophical movements and thoughts in the different subsections and pioneers of these thoughts and movements and whatnot. Since one of my goals for 2025 is to engage in more self-guided study, so reading some more nonfiction, I chose philosophy to start with, and I'm really glad I did. I think it's a really interesting field of study, and I think that there's a lot more to thinking than just having a thought, if that makes any sense, but just going into why we exist, why we do the things we do, why we have thoughts and ethics and aesthetics and the study of beauty and life and what makes sense, how we make sense of the world. It's all very interesting. And I chose to start with this book because it was just a generalized introduction. So I got to learn a lot of philosophers and then the different movements, as I said. So I felt like it was a good introduction. It was written a little juvenile, but that's okay. It was very accessible and a very easy read that got me interested in a lot of different ideas. And I can't wait to start diving deeper into specific aspects of philosophy. I had a really great reading month in January, even if there weren't a lot of books. The ones I did, I really enjoyed and loved. So I think that's a win. And I'm really excited and looking forward to everything that I'll be reading in February. For February, the first book on my TBR is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I have heard nothing but good things about this book, though I haven't heard much about the contents of the book. I know that it is a dark academia fantasy, and it follows Siona. She is a mage, but she is a woman, and there has been no female high mages allowed into the high magistry, and they are the elite magic users in her world. And so she is on track to be the first woman admitted to this very elite order. But of course, as she continues to hurtle toward her goals, she realizes that maybe these goals aren't the best, and there are things that are hidden from her that aren't ideal. So I'm very excited. I have heard a lot about The Sword of Cardin as well, but I have not read that one, so this will be my first M.L. Wang novel. Next on my list is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I have not read this book yet. I know that this is sometimes required reading in high school, but I actually just had never read it. It wasn't part of the curriculum that I had, though I did read a lot of classics. So I don't know, this one just slipped through the cracks, I guess. But I'm very excited, especially in this current climate of the United States. I think it'll be very good. George Orwell, of course, is like a pioneer of the dystopia genre as we know it today, and seeing how things have and haven't changed since the time of his writing in the like mid 1900s, so 1940s, I believe they're all published around that time, is both disheartening and also heartening, because it means that we have gone through this before, we can get through it again. So I'm very excited to read Animal Farm, and of course I know so much about it just because it is so ingrained into the cultural zeitgeist, but I am just excited to actually like read the prose and the story and see why and make sense of all like those lines and stuff that I know just from it being in the culture. My last two books on my TBR for February are both nonfiction. They're both philosophy books. The first one is The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. Albert Camus is an existentialist, so that is the field of thought that there is no religion or there is no higher purpose to humans existing, but rather than descending into nihilism, it means that we get to create our own meaning in life. The Myth of Sisyphus specifically is about living a life, creating your own meaning, and not giving into like temptations of suicide or ending your life in a world where you don't have like a higher meaning and things like that. So it's a meditation on suicide. So I think it might be a little difficult of a read just emotionally, but I'm very excited to read essay style work, to read like his essays and learn more about his way of thinking. That was not eloquent at all, but this is just where I'm at in the day. I'm excited to read it either way. And the final book on my February TBR is At the Existentialist Café by Sarah Bakewell. Again, we're kind of in the existentialism field right now, which I really like. I'm enjoying it. I find that I align with a lot of the thoughts in existentialism. Sarah Bakewell brings a lot of ideas from a lot of other philosophers, in a lot of other existentialist philosophers, and bringing it together in just like a new, fresh way. This was recommended by someone on TikTok. I don't know their username. They had recommended like their list of philosophy books to read, so I like wrote them down, and then I saw this at the tattered cover, so I knew I had to pick it up. But I'm very excited to jump into it. It looks like it's going to be just like a lot of fun exploring these different philosophers and their philosophies. So that is, just the books that I have been reading, the books that I'm going to read, and hopefully if I read these books more quickly than I read last month, I'll get a fifth book in there. But yeah, that's all I have for today. If you want to let me know what you are reading, what books you've been enjoying so far this year that I can add to my very, very long TBR, I would love to know. Otherwise, I would love to see you again. If you want to leave a comment, like this video, or subscribe to my channel, I would appreciate, but you do not have to, of course. I'm just very glad that you joined me today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye.